Warning, this show contains adult language. Well, preparing for supply chain disruptions. This is episode 279, and this is getting really weird. On the day today, I was looking, what can I talk about? What interests me? And I was kind of losing it. I was like, maybe I shouldn't even do a show today. So I go to work and I go to buy myself some materials, and this is like the 3rd, I think, of October. The 4th of October of 2021, I asked my supplier there, like, what do you have that's affected by the supply chain shortage? And they just looked at each other and said, everything. And there's some goods and things that I need to continue my business that they said maybe be about 16 weeks out before I could even get them, and that's if we can get them. So I really didn't think too much about these matters. I mean, we talked about this in the show a couple of months ago. But I'm really, by the time I'm seeing all these ships sitting all over the coast of the United States, all the coasts, it looks like, around all the ports, even down, it looks like in South America. I don't know how real, all this stuff is, but I wanted to talk today about how this affects my business, how it affects your business, how it just affects us in general, but more specifically as we are a solution-based show here. What are the things we can do to combat that, or not necessarily to combat, but to survive, and maybe in this instance I look at is not even thrive, just survive, because we're in a precarious situation, and really, really precarious. But let's talk about what we can do about it. Welcome to another edition of Up and In. I'm your host, Adrian Babashoff, and if you're new here, welcome as well. And if you're wondering what the show's about, it's entirely dedicated to improving quality of life for both people and planet through liberation and independence, moving you from surviving to thriving and living life on your own terms. The very first thing that I look at is my business, because that's what I'm flustered up about here. So a lot of preparations and things that I've made in my life throughout the years, looking at things, dealing with things, preparing for the future, utilizing things that buying things that I'm already using, basically. I'm not throwing money away. I'm not buying dehydrated foods and Mylar bags and things like that, beans and rice and stuff. I'm buying things that I'm actually using, and I've doubled up on these things for many, many years. And what's interesting is that with my business, I learned through the whole COVID experience that you want to have some extra money. You want to have emergency funds for your business, because your business is pretty much you. But now it doesn't matter. It's coming to this point where I'm just completely flabbergasted of it doesn't matter how much money I have in the bank for my business, because there's going to be possibly nothing to buy. So it's already in certain sectors in the construction industry, there's certain stuff in the roofing supply chain disruption where it's just non-existent. You can't even get it. Like, we don't know when, how, where, but it's just, you're going to have to use something else. This affects my business, and now it starts to hit home, and I realize how precarious and how shortfall we are, that we're so dependent on the system of goods and services and things that a lot of us are not, our lives aren't designed, we don't live in a conducive environment that actually produces for us. We don't have the ability to do that on large scale, and in most scales there's a lot of different things we can do about that we're going to talk about. But this whole system that we live in is completely fragile, and I hope that what I think is happening is not going to happen. And for myself, I'm completely affected. So my business, the way I look at it is strategies. Let's look at, for me, in the roofing, I do many things, but roofing is where my major money comes from. And one of the strategies I looked at is to get me a bunch of sealants. As the distributor, not the manufacturer yet, but the distributor company that I use, I went in today. They says that there's like even supply chain shortages on the buckets to even fill the sealants and things like that, and like, it's crazy. They don't know what's going to happen. And so I look at that right now. It's just kind of like the people who went crazy with toilet paper. Whatever business you're in, if you have the money and you've designed your business and your life around being prepared, is to do the same. Like, for me, is to go out and buy a bunch of sealants so I can repair things. I don't think if it gets as bad as what people are saying it is, and the feeling is that there's going to be no complete overhauls, meaning if you needed a whole entire roof on your house, or maybe even the lumber, like to fix everything and then put the sheeting and all this stuff, it's not going to happen. That means that I'm asked out from making money. But the one thing I can do is maybe purchase me, maybe about 20 buckets of sealants on this side, 20 buckets of the other, put them in my storage facility, have them there on the ready and the go, so at least I can repair people's buildings to get them through the winter. And maybe by then everything will kind of, come back maybe semi to normal. But that's the way I look at the only way my business and my livelihood can survive. And I look and I understand now, looking at this, is that if I don't have that business, then I'm going to be sitting home twiddling my thumbs, right? If I don't have all those supplies and the things that I need, the goods to produce my services unto others, then we're pretty screwed. And I'm really just kind of like, wow. So I think that this affects all businesses, no matter what you're doing. Like I said, it's not just down to certain chemicals and things like that. It's actually the plastic that it goes into, right? the containers. There's a shortage of Petri dishes, they were saying. The way they mix up medications in these fancy little bags. I was reading on Forbes News, I think it was, or The Guardian, and there's a shortage of that to actually produce certain medications and things. So I recommend, as far as a business, to really take a good hard look to figure out how you can at least break even or stay afloat and make the necessary adjustments for your business. Again, buying things that you're already going to use. For instance, my sealants that I purchase, they can last for years if they're not, opened. Even if they were a lot of petroleum-based things like that, they're going to last for a very long time. But when I look into this in our personal lives, double up on your medications, man. If you know somebody who's, got diabetes or something like that, we need to start figuring out these type of things, like make a list of what we got, what we need. For instance, for me, I use a gravity-fed water filtration system, and that's one thing that I like. A lot of people depend on bottled water. I hate bottled water because it's bad for the earth, bad for you. But no matter what would happen in any situation, as long as I had my gravity-fed stainless steel water filtration system, I'm good to go. But I need to have filters. These filters are only changed out every 6 months to a year, depending how much you use them. But I'm looking at certain things like that. Like, there's these loose ends all over life right now, where I look and I say, well, that's an investment. That's something that I can buy. And I kind of look at this as just that, an investment, because you're going to purchase these things now. A lot of things are going to be going up in cost, so you're actually saving money if you stockpile on a lot of these things that you need. I think we spoke about in your vehicle, I've bought myself 2 oil filters, 2 fuel filters. I've got chips, the fuse chips and things like that. I mean, your entire vehicle could be shut down by a simple little switch, just a little fuse that burned out. And if there's a supply chain shortage on these things, you're screwed if you can't find them. So there's many, many things I'd advise all of you to do the same as I'm doing. Just, don't panic and freak out. Just sit back and look at things and say, well, what exactly is it that I need? And make a big giant list and start preparing for these things. And I hope that you guys are in a situation like me where, financially I can afford these things. I understand that a lot of people can't. And to me, if that's the situation and we're kind of Dave Ramseying here, what would I do with my money? And I would look at, find out what are the major necessities, life and death, I think water is a very important one. Food, your medications. I understand a lot of people are on medications. I think that you should try to double up on those type of things and prepare. So this always brings me back when things get all messy and things get all flustered and weird. It always brings me back to how significant a simple life is. And I'm kind of growing out of the tiny house thing. I mean, I really, really went tiny, guys. For those of you who don't know me, I live in under 300 square feet of home with 2 kids, right? And I used to have a dog. So it gets cramped. And I talked about how it's conducive on some points it's not. Just like this right now, where I want to stock up things. There's no room to stock up and put things. I'm already fermenting foods and things like that, kombuchas, and I've got every nook and cranny filled in there. And sometimes, lately I've been coming to the conclusion where a house, nothing big. I'm not talking about no 4 or 5 bedroom house. I'm just talking like a 2 bedroom or even a 1 bedroom house, 1,000 square feet or even 800 square feet, the size of most people's garages. At least I know we have listeners from all over the world, but here in the United States, like a 2-car, 3-car garage, that could be my entire house, probably more like a 3. And yeah, it would be conducive, but it always brings me back at these moments to where I'm completely safe. Not completely safe. As I said, if there's a supply chain shortage in foods and things like that, I'm kind of screwed just like everybody else. And it doesn't matter that I have the money to purchase stuff. There's just nothing to purchase, right? There's no goods there. The one thing I can say is I have an abundance of seeds and things I've been saving. As far as like growing my own food, like kale and cabbage and turnips, and I mean I've got bok choy. I've got all kinds of lettuces and all kinds of stuff that if it came down to it, I actually could start growing up my food production. So I have a sense in that where I do have a good investment, and it's a non-monetary investment. It's untaxable, and most people would probably look and say, well, that's just stupid, but when it comes down to it, just having it there, a bank of seeds, just makes you feel a heck of a lot better when you're not knowing what's going to happen. But yeah, I keep the low cost of overhead. I look at if the shit does hit the fan, I am so grateful that I'm not into a mortgage right now. I'm in a month to month. I pay a third of what most people, or a quarter, I'd say an average about a third of what most people have to spend on rent, and we're talking even apartments. I live in San Diego, California, Southern California, one of the most expensive places to live. But yeah, it always keeps coming back down to where I'm so grateful that my life, I'm not cemented into anything, and I can't imagine the stresses and things that people are going through that they're going to have to try to figure out if this shit does hit the fan. It doesn't matter. It had nothing to do with you, right? So, like with me, it has nothing to do with me. I've prepared everything to the best that I can. But the fact of the matter is, there's no goods to buy to produce my services. It's not my fault. But these are things that I'm looking at, the lessons that I'm learning from all this COVID and this supply chain stuff, is that this isn't, for one, if it never happened, right? Let's just say it doesn't happen. The stress that I'm going through and that others are probably really, really hardcore going through is not worth it. What can we put in its place? As I said, to move from a consumer to a producer. If there's any way that we can produce things for ourselves, the biggest ones I look at is like food and energy. If you're able to produce a large amount of your food, then you're not too much worried about that kind of stuff. If you've invested in solar panels and batteries and DC appliances, refrigerator, freezer, and lights and things like that, you're not really you're not preoccupied with those things. I mean, you probably are looking, going, yeah, I may need new batteries or something like that at some point, but pretty much you're okay. I think there's a way too without car batteries that you're able to run DC power. So there's AC is what you have in your house. DC is like how your vehicle, everything, the lights and everything function off the batteries. They're all different motors that work differently. So one thing I know is that you can run these DC fans just directly off of a solar panel. I believe you would be able to do the same on a refrigerator or freezer. The problem is it's only going to work when the sun is out. I really like I want to emphasize here too, of knowing a little bit about different things, about opening up your horizons, and of experience and knowledge base about things. And me knowing a little trick like this could actually save and help to improve my life and maybe others. So I always say money, health, and all those things are very important, but it seems really, really nice to be able to have the knowledge and skill base, if we can build those things up for times like this, to actually become a producer. So very important. I look at, with all of this going on, I look a lot like, well, what would be the best situation? Like, how could we really fix all this? So, as I was saying, you're producing a lot of your own food, vegetables, and things like that. Trees are really awesome. Trees you can plant once, and as long as a tornado don't come or hurricane and rip them apart, or there's a major fire, or it's any kind of catastrophe, if you live in a place that's got plenty of water, intelligently, strategically placing yourself on a piece of land like this, your trees will give to you for a long time. Agave nectars, same thing. Aloe vera, so many medicinal herbs and plants and succulents and things that you can plant that keep propagating themselves. They keep multiplying, and you can just have full-blown abundance. So one of the things that I look at that has sprung me back to pretty much the old way of living. And in this modern age of living, looking at how precarious and all the things that are going through, the stresses, and that just nobody knows what the fuck's going to happen. The significance of owning land, useful land, just seems like the ticket to combat things like this, whether times were good or bad. If we think about that, you had yourself a good piece of land, and I says you're producing a lot of your own vegetables. You're producing a lot of your own energy through solar or wind or what's that, hydropower. A lot of these things wouldn't affect you that much. I mean, of course, you'd have to stay home. Probably you wouldn't want to go driving your vehicle a lot if there was a shortage on gas and chips and wear and tear and things, and no money, to go buy gas. But in these situations, I look, and a lot of us have abandoned the idea and the whole lifestyle design. And I think that if things happen bad the way they're looking, I think there's going to be a swing back to homesteading. I mean, I think that's really the way we should design our lives. I mean, from here on in, with this great reset, with a recession possibly coming, these supply chain shortages, if you really, really think about it, the quality of life would be improved so much better, less stress and things like that. If we were able to be on land and all becoming more of a producer than a consumer. And yeah, I think, water is becoming an issue. We have a huge drought here in California. Southern California at least. And I really do think that the simple living is awesome and everything, but I think on a larger scale, I foresee what a lot of us need to start doing is getting back on land and producing a lot of our own goods. That's all that I have. I'm sure I might be missing a few things here, but I'm really, like I said, just kind of thrown back today. Like, I don't know what else to talk about and what to do. Other than I'm going to go and take care of my business here, keep trying to sell as much work as I can. I'm preparing right now. I'm in my parking lot here. I'm going to unload my shipping containers and stuff that I have, make some room, and I'm actually going to go purchase, as I said, make an investment in at least some sealants and stuff like that, little nooks and nuts and bolts and things like that. Just take an inventory, figure out what I can do to keep myself afloat. And I know I'll be just fine. I'm very scared for the rest of the people who aren't thinking this way. It's not like you could just jump into this type of lifestyle, preparedness lifestyle, and simple living just overnight. Some of people may be forced to do so, but it takes time, it takes practice, and it takes planning. And I know it's not for everybody, but yeah, I'm very concerned that other people are going to get hurt if this thing continues to do what it appears that it's doing. So I want to tell you guys, I saw a video this morning on TikTok, and it was basically an onion farmer guy, and they says that you can literally expect coming now, like soon, like maybe by tomorrow, that the cost of food is going to go up by anywhere from 20 to 40% higher. And he says, I forgot what exactly was the deal here, where these businesses were buying up a lot of produce and things like that, and they had to keep them at a certain price. I think that what a lot of people did is they locked down, when like say this onion farmer who was making this video, a business will come in and prepay. We're going to buy $1 million worth of this product, but we want it fixed, just like when you're getting a mortgage, right? They want it fixed. We're going to give you X amount of dollars, we want X amount of pounds. So what's happened is the cost of farming and inflation and everything has gone up from what I'm seeing in the industries, in the food industry, that these people had to hold their bargain and sell and maintain, get to the end of producing that amount, those quantities to match what the contract was. Well, the contracts are over. And many of these growers, as they say, they have to raise their prices because the cost of business is so high, they would actually go bankrupt within a year. So we have a lot of things coming in our way, and I think there's a lot of things we need to do for preparation. And I hope that the things that I've talked to you guys here today, I hope I helped you. I don't want to be on a somber note, but I'm very concerned. So I'm going to go take care of my life, and I'm going to start making those lists of things. I advise that you do the same. For those of you who are entrepreneurs and business owners, I think you should take a look at your business and really, start thinking about, as I said, about the emergency funds for your business, but also the goods. Buy things that you're already going to use that aren't going to spoil. You're going to be, prices of everything's going to go up, so it's a good investment if you can, if you put yourself in that situation. If you're living day by day, paycheck to paycheck, I don't really see anything that we can do. And that's what it seems like to me. This lifestyle design, the way we are all living in the world, we shouldn't be this hardly affected like this. If we were true producers of most of our own goods, we can't do it all. But if we were producing a lot, I think we'd be in way better shape. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to deal with the stress of living like this. And I think it's time to devise. And I think maybe that's what we'll do on some shows is start getting into more of maybe what kind of land to buy and where to buy, and all those kind of things. I don't know, but I'm stressed out, and I don't even know. I might take a few days off here and just kind of do some major research and figure out what the hell really is fucking going on in the world here. I don't watch the news, so every once in a while, I take my head out and go into society out of my little world, and then they're like the two people today looking at each other like, supply chain disruption? Which thing? It's everything. And they started looking around the room, and I'm watching them looking around the room and going, oh my God, yeah, it is getting kind of chintzy here, isn't it? Like getting kind of short and shy. So, I think I might, if I can think of something, I'll be back on the show. If not, I'm going to take a few days off and try to figure out what we got going on here. So I hope that the show helped you guys. If it does, you guys know what to do. Everything's down below. As I always say, go out there and have yourself a near-life experience. Don't lose your muchness. Carry on the fire. Human up. Live it, love it, own it, and bone it, my friends.